Hi, I'm Wesley with Tree Newal, and today I want to talk to you about some of the most common myths I hear on a regular basis about tree pruning. First is that it helps to strip out the interior of the foliage of the tree and the interior branching of the tree because it's going to help protect the tree from storm damage. Second is that it's too hot to prune the tree in Texas in the summer, and it's going to have a poor effect on the health of the tree if we do that. Third, that we can't clean dead wood during the winter. Fourth, that leaving stubs or cutting too close to the trunk doesn't harm the tree. So one of the most common myths that I hear about tree pruning is that in order to reduce wind drag and reduce a tree's risk in high wind situations, that one should remove the interior growth of the tree to reduce weight, one, and wind drag, two. It's actually very counterproductive. The tree needs to have the weight distributed evenly up and down the branch as much as possible. When you come in and you take out all the interior growth and you strip that branch and you leave only foliage and weight out on the end of the branch, it actually increases the tree's likelihood of failure. One, you're moving the center of gravity farther down the end of the branch. Two, that branch is like a long lever arm, and the longer it is and the more weight that's out on the end of it, the more leverage it puts on the branch attachment. And so if you've got a heavy load on the end of a long branch, that branch is going to be more likely to fail when the wind blows and starts shock loading it, which just creates additional force on the branch attachment. The difference between a tree that is full in the interior is that it can diffuse the force of that wind. Rather than applying it all at the end of the branch, it pulls the center of gravity back down towards the branch attachment, which reduces leverage. And it also helps with taper. So branches that have been stripped, except out at the end, do not tend to form a good taper. If you think about a fishing pole, the reason it can bend over so much is one, because it's a flexible material like wood, but two, it's also tapered. If it weren't tapered, it would snap. Tree branches are the same, and when the branches are full all the way down toward the branch attachment, they tend to form more taper, so you've got a stronger, more stout branch attachment and more flexibility out on the end of that branch. The next thing I would say is pruning branches too close to the attachment. If you have a branch and you cut it off right where it's meeting the trunk, that's what we call a flush cut. And there's a bit of tissue called the branch collar. If you would consider my thumb as a branch, it would be the difference. Would you rather cut your thumb off here or here? Right here is the branch collar, and right there the tree has a lot of ability to compartmentalize that wound and close it up. That's important because it keeps out decay and insects. If the tree can't compartmentalize that wound and close it up, the wood decay fungi are going to get in there, and eventually you're going to end up with a cavity that's going to weaken that part of the tree. And that could compromise the structural integrity of the tree. Some trees are good at compartmentalizing and keeping the decay walled off on the inside. Others are poor. So not knowing what kind of tree you have, whether it's a good compartmentalizer or a poor compartmentalizer, can be important, but also making the right cuts in the right places. Alternatively, if you leave too much of a stub on a cut, the tree doesn't have a lot of ability to compartmentalize that wound either. And so what will happen is it'll start to decay on the end of the stub, and eventually that decay can move back into the tree and weaken the tree's structural integrity. There's also a common misconception that pruning trees in the middle of summer when it's really hot outside can have a negative impact on the health of the tree. I would say that you can do normal tree pruning any time of year, including in the middle of summer. As long as you're staying within the well-defined ranges of amount of green tissue to remove from a tree in one particular pruning, you're going to be okay. It's not going to cause undue stress to that tree to prune it just because it's hot outside. Another big problem, or another myth of tree pruning, is that it's inappropriate to prune trees certain times a year. There may be a few species that for a certain reason we might want to prune at this time or not this time, but for the most part, we can prune any tree any time of year depending on the objectives. Pruning trees when the weather is very hot is not usually a problem. Pruning trees when the weather is cold can be done as well, and cleaning dead wood out of dormant trees is very possible as well. One of the things we don't want to do is contribute to disease transmission by pruning at the wrong time of year. An ISA arborist is going to understand what those limitations are and be able to make appropriate recommendations to you for when is the best time to prune your tree. So another myth that I hear a lot is that we can't clean dead wood in the winter, because how do you know which branches are dead and which ones are green? The guys that do this work every day can tell. They're getting up close and personal with these trees. A lot of times they're climbing way up into the tree canopy, and they can tell. When you touch the tree with a pole or a pole saw, it sounds different, it feels different, and the bark is cracking and flaking off. There's no buds on the ends of the twigs. There's no flexibility in that branch. Guys that do this day in, day out, they can easily tell what's a live branch or a dead branch, even if it's in the winter and the tree doesn't have any leaves on it. So heavily pruning trees to improve the quality of the lawn can have a very counterproductive effect on the health of the tree. So pruning 40 to 50% of the tree's foliage out is going to strip the tree of its ability to feed itself. It's going to reduce its photosynthetic capacity. It may also reduce the tree's structural integrity, make it more prone to breaking in storms, and it could affect the aesthetics of the tree as well.